The honourable member for Mississauga-Streetsville.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's indeed a pleasure to rise in the House today and discuss M-230. I want to thank the honourable member for Niagara-Glanbrook for bringing this matter before the House. Anaphylaxis is a severe medical condition and a serious public health issue. Unfortunately, there are no cures for this or for food allergies in general, at least not yet. The only way to prevent an anaphylactic reaction is to avoid the allergen causing it. The best way to diminish the likelihood of a reaction is through greater public awareness of the condition and its triggers. Anaphylactic reactions are caused by a negative response to an allergen. Allergens can be in the form of medications, insect bites, latex, and certain foods. In fact, there are over 200 recognized allergens. The top 10 food allergies are to eggs, seafood, as my colleague just mentioned, in his case, milk, tree nuts, sesame, sulfites, wheat, mustard, soy, peanuts, and other cereal grains containing gluten. Adults are more prone to reactions from medications, insect bites, and stings, while foods are still the most common allergic trigger in children and young people. There are many symptoms that can occur as a result of an anaphylactic reaction. They generally happen within minutes of coming into contact with the allergen, although a reaction could also occur several hours after exposure. There are 5 areas where symptoms present themselves: the skin, the respiratory system, the gastrointestinal system, and the cardiovascular system, as well as mood. When symptoms present themselves, usually 2 or more parts of the body are affected. Symptoms present themselves on the skin 80 to 90% of the time, while the respiratory system is affected in about 70% of the cases. The gastrointestinal system is affected by 30 to 45%, while the cardiovascular system is affected between 10 and 45% of the time. In addition, the central nervous system is affected in 10 to 15% of anaphylactic reactions. So victims of anaphylaxis, Mr. Speaker, can exhibit symptoms such as hives, itching, swelling, rash, coughing, wheezing, shortness of breath, hay fever-like symptoms, and chest pain. They can experience cramps and nausea, develop a weak pulse and lightheadedness, and even go into shock. The most serious symptoms are breathing difficulties and drops in blood pressure, both of which could be life-threatening. The throat constricts, oxygen cannot be delivered to the brain, and one could experience a panic attack and then go into shock. When these signs or symptoms arise, patients must immediately receive medical attention, specifically a dose of epinephrine. Those with a serious allergy will carry an epinephrine auto-injector or EpiPen or Twinject to prevent reactions when exposed to an allergen. If left untreated, one can fall unconscious and possibly die. It is estimated that 2.5 million Canadians live with anaphylaxis, and this number continues to rise every year. It is projected that 3,500 Canadians experience anaphylactic shock each year from eating the wrong foods. And of those 3,500, unfortunately, about a dozen will die. 1 in 2 Canadians know someone with a serious food allergy. Alarmingly, they are most prevalent in young children, specifically those under 3 years old. Close to 6% of children below the age of 3 and 300,000 youth under 18 are affected by general food allergies. Disturbingly, the frequency of food allergies has increased 350% from 1996 to 2002. The prevalence of peanut and nut allergies has increased 250% over that time. As such, it is no surprise that more than 40% of Canadians examine the ingredient information on food labels, either for themselves or for someone living with anaphylaxis. The most recognized allergy, of course, is one to peanuts. This allergy affects 2 out of 100 children in Canada. Peanuts and tree nuts are responsible for the majority of fatal anaphylactic reactions. A study examining 13 fatal and near-fatal cases in children concluded that 10 of the 13 incidents occurred as a result of reaction to peanuts or nuts. Even with great vigilance, someone with a nut allergy will have an accidental episode every 3 to 5 years. Accidental exposures occur as a result of not being able to see the residue of a food allergen which has been left on an appliance or a piece of furniture. Airborne proteins can also cause serious issues that can induce an asthmatic attack. These statistics emphasize the magnitude of anaphylaxis and the importance of bringing it to national attention. Many Canadians, including numerous families from my constituency, face the frequent and frightening threat of an anaphylactic reaction, and this concerns me greatly. Those who live with anaphylaxis are most at risk outside the home, where one has little or no control of their surroundings. Parents try to teach their children the risks of the condition so that the children can safely interact with friends and teachers. Traveling by airplane is perhaps the best example of a high-risk environment where peanuts and mixed nuts are common snack foods. With airplanes being so enclosed, the risk of having an allergic reaction to a nearby allergen residue or airborne protein is very high. Air travel is unnerving for those living with anaphylaxis, as flying 35,000 feet up in the air leaves them highly vulnerable and far from medical facilities. It is my hope that airlines will rise to the challenge of implementing a nut-free policy and an announcement system for passengers to avoid consuming nut products when an anaphylaxis passenger self-identifies. I've heard from many people struggling with anaphylaxis. I've also had discussions with members of the Canadian Anaphylaxis Initiative. They improve the lives of Canadians with this condition by promoting anaphylactic safe environments, as well as lobbying governments, organizations, and other businesses to do the same. Motion 230 is about more awareness, so Canadians will become familiar with the risks of anaphylaxis and will hopefully take precautions to limit accidental exposure for those who may be vulnerable. This, in turn, will create a safer environment for everyone. There should be a supportive and alert community that ensures preventative measures are taken to avoid anaphylactic reactions. It's important to mention that preliminary steps have been taken to spread awareness of anaphylaxis and to recognize its severity. Individuals, companies, and governments have acted appropriately in this regard. Let's just take a quick example, Mr. Speaker. In the private sector, the Toronto Blue Jays, I'm sure most will be watching hockey tonight, but I think there's a Blue Jay game too. The Toronto Blue Jays have offered a peanut-controlled zone for 3 of their home games in the previous season. These zones ensure that fans at risk of a severe anaphylactic reaction were given a safer place to enjoy the game. That's good corporate leadership that benefits us all. So, Mr. Speaker, more awareness of this serious medical condition is needed on a nationwide level. That's why I urge members of this House to approve this motion and launch anaphylaxis further onto the national stage. By adopting this motion, the Canadian government will be taking another important step forward in ensuring that Canadians living with anaphylaxis are able to maintain a higher quality of life. I would like to thank Debbie Bruce from Mississauga, who's been instrumental in helping me prepare these remarks and is a true champion advocate for this condition for the thousands of people living it across the country. She should be greatly appreciated for her work. I look forward to seeing this motion receive the unanimous support of all members of the House. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.